Today is the 9th of March 2017 and I'm here to interview Henry Wuga. Can I begin please by asking you where you were born?
I was born in Nuremberg in Germany.
And when was that?
On the 23rd of February 1924.
And were you always called Henry Wuga?
I was called Heinz Wuga.
So can you remember much about your early time in Germany before the arrival of the Nazis?
Yes, it was, I'm an only child. I had a normal upbringing with my parents. We went into the country at weekends. I went to the local school, which was perfectly good, until the Nazis came to power. And even before, in Nuremberg, even before the Nuremberg laws, the anti-Semitism was horrendous. I mean, sitting in school, people would sing anti-Semitic songs, and when I think you had half the class were your friends, some people were your friends, all of a sudden, nobody spoke to you, neither the teachers nor your friends, because of that pressure of the Nazis. Have nothing to do with Jews. The children were intimidated, their parents might lose their job or advancement, and it was really horrendous. It's quite shocking, but they were singing a ditty. I'll do it in German first and then in English. Zwei Juden baden in einem Fluss, weil sich ne Sau mal waschen muss. Der eine ist ersoffen, vom anderen wollen wir es hoffen. Two Jews bathed in a water hollow, because even a pig has to clean itself. One quickly drowned, we hope the other one will follow. I mean, you're sitting there, 10 years of age, and they're singing this into your face, so we knew this is no good.
So were you able to go out and meet friends and so on, or was it difficult even to do that?
No, that became very difficult. You became fairly isolated. You stayed amongst your own family and friends. Fortunately, in Nuremberg we had a twin town called Fürth, like Glasgow and Paisley, where there was an old established Jewish grammar school, Israelitische Realschule Fürth, where we then went to Fürth and we had a fairly good upbringing. One of my classmates was Henry Kissinger.
And did your parents at the time think that this would end, or did they suspect it was going to get worse?
I don't know about end. We knew we could not stay. My mother had great forethought. She took me out of school at the age of 14, which I didn't. I loved to be at school. She said, the reason, she said, I'm sorry, we have to leave here and you need to learn a trade or a profession, something, so you can earn your living in another country. And how right she was. And I now think back, I mean, unbelievable. That's what happened. So I went to a strictly kosher hotel in Baden-Baden in the Black Forest as an apprentice until Kristallnacht.
And what happened then in 1938?
Well, Kristallnacht, we all know what happened in Kristallnacht. This horrendous affair of smashing all shops and houses. Because this young Greenspan guy killed a German diplomat in Paris. And as Dr. Joseph Goebbels said, the German nation rose up against the Jews. Well, I mean, horrendous. It was pre-planned, as we all know, in thousands of villages and towns. The synagogues were set on fire. They came to your house, they smashed the furniture, they turned over the sideboards, they slit the downies, everything was full of feathers. The men were taken away to concentration camp for 6 weeks and told, this is what's going to happen to you. So we knew there's no end for us here. It was, Kristallnacht was quite frightening. Coming in from Nuremberg, of course. I mean, our synagogue was destroyed 2 years earlier. This notorious Nazi town, we were right in the middle of all that, particularly this newspaper, Der Stürmer, Julius Streicher, published in Nuremberg. It was not a pleasant time.
And were your parents immediately affected by Kristallnacht?
Yes, well, they were attacked business-wise. You lose your business. You then could only deal with other Jewish people. So all your other customers, no matter what profession you were in, or whether you're a shopkeeper, whatever you were, you're a teacher, you were only allowed to deal with Jewish people. So everything shrank. This had an immediate impact on people's wherewithal, on people's finances. It was very, very tough, and we all knew this is not going to end well.
So what then happened? What did your parents decide to do? Because you were still very young.
Yes. We had some sort of relationship with the United States, but our affidavit had the wrong number. I remember being in a consulate, the US consulate in Munich, but that didn't work. So my mother managed to get me onto Kindertransport. That was the savior.
And could you explain a little of what the Kindertransport was?
The Kindertransport was this tremendous rescue operation. This powerful Jewish committee and others, the Church of Scotland, the Red Cross, collected money, and they went to the government and they said, could we at least save the children? Now, I point out particularly, they went to the Home Secretary. The Home Secretary of the time was Sir Samuel Hoare. He was a Quaker. Now, a Quaker has a wider, more liberal outlook. And Sir Samuel Hoare answered to this committee, if you have gathered the money, we, the government, will not put any obstacle in your way. Within 3 weeks, this bill went through Parliament and the trains began to roll. If this would happen today, there would be a committee of inquiry, we would all be dead. I mean, these things don't happen anymore. Within 3 weeks, the government, I really say, they gripped the bull by the horns and they got on with it. And the trains started to roll, and these 9,000 odd children were saved. Fantastic.
So what was it like for you to actually experience that?
The horror was to be taken to the train station, say goodbye to your parents. Would you ever see them again? Okay, I was 15 and a half. I had been away at the age of 14 in the big wide world, so I could cope with it. In the train, I was surrounded by 7, 8-year-old boys and girls who had never been away from their mum and dad before. I mean, horrendous. The crying, can you imagine the trauma? After many hours, when we crossed the Dutch frontier and the Nazi guards left the train, I mean, the pressure lifted. In Holland, there were ladies at every station with hot chocolate, with apples, with sandwiches. So we already felt this is easier, yes? It had an immediate effect, even these young children. All of a sudden, things became calmer. So by the time we arrived at the Channel and then crossed by boat, arrived at Liverpool Street Station, it must have been 18 hours, 24 hours. So you can imagine how traumatized everybody was, yes? But we were here, we were alive, and in Liverpool Street Station, we were waiting for our guarantors, or those that didn't have guarantors to be sent to other schools. So it was a bit of a black hole and a bit of a cattle market. People did come and pick children, but they liked this one, they didn't like that one. So siblings got separated. But I came straight to Glasgow. I had a guarantor in Glasgow, a very nice lady, a Jewish lady in her late 60s, Mrs. Etta Harwich, who took on a 15-and-a-half-year-old boy. Her family had grown up. So for me, it was a wonderful experience.
And were you sent to school in Glasgow?
Yes, I was very fortunate. I was sent to school right away. I went to Queen's Park School right away. There was no hesitation. Mrs. Harwich wanted you should be educated, yes? Queen's Park School, there were a few Jewish children in Queen's Park School, but as a German national, my name was Heinz, so they didn't make fun of me. They changed the Heinz to, I was called 57, Heinz's Baked Beans, 57 varieties, so that was a sort of welcoming nickname. So I settled down at school fairly quickly.
You didn't have any English at the time? Or
very little English.
And your parents, what happened to them while you were here?
While I was here, my parents were in Nuremberg. My father died of a heart attack, and my mother was then hidden by Catholic friends and taken to the country, and she survived the war and came here after the war.
I understand you ended up in the Isle of Man. Can you explain why that was?
Yes, you know, when war breaks out, all communication with the enemy country ceases. I had an uncle in Brussels. I sent letters to Brussels. He sent them to Nuremberg. This went on a few times. It was wartime. War had broken out. Corresponding with the enemy, it was a capital offense. I was arrested. I was taken to the High Court in Edinburgh. At the age of 16, I remember Sir John Strachan, within half an hour, I became a dangerous enemy alien category A. I was taken by 2 detectives by train to Glasgow, given an hour to pack a case, and then they didn't know what to do with me. Took me to the police station. Being Scotland, civilized country, by the way, the sergeant said, "Can you take the laddie, he's under 17. No allowed in a cell." So they took me to a remand home. Then I ended up in Maryhill Barracks in an underground bunker for a fortnight with German merchant navy sailors from the Icelandic Brigade. I ended up in Donaldson School in Edinburgh with these Nazi guys. It was horrendous. Eventually, I ended up in the Isle of Man. While I was in Edinburgh and in Maryhill Barracks, Churchill in cabinet, Winston Churchill, he banged the table. He said, "Collar a lot." He got so fed up with the public press. I mean, go on, nothing has changed. This is 2017. The Daily Mail, the Express, foreigners, who needs them, send them home. Churchill got so fed up that we all these immigrants that came from Germany and Austria were interned in the Isle of Man. Eventually I ended up in the Isle of Man after many camps. And I was in the Isle of Man for 10 months. And I was eventually released because I was under the age of internment, you know, bureaucracy. But the Isle of Man for me was a powerful learning organization. It was like a university, all these academics giving lectures. And we weren't ill-treated, except in one camp. On the whole, we were reasonably well looked after. And after 10 months, I got out.
And did you use your skills that you'd learnt as a...
Yes, I entered, when I came out, I entered the catering trade. What my mother did, I must say, stood me in good stead. There's no question about it. So that then it took its course. May I just say that while I was in the Isle of Man, I got a new roommate, and he tried to get me drunk. He tried to get information out of me, and we thought there's something not right. It's only 10 years ago that I wrote to my MP. I said, "Did they really suspect me?" So he said, "Write to the National Archives in Kew," which I did. They sent me a whole lot of stuff. Of course, this was an MI5 spy trying to pump a 16-year-old. Well, look, it's wartime. I fully understand. My letters could have been used for illegal purposes. And I've got all this stuff here. So I was touched by MI5. While I was in Perthshire, the chief constable said, "This alien must not be left at liberty." And 9 months later, after I went through 4 or 5 tribunals to be what I call denazified, you know. At the end, they said, "This boy should be sent home to Glasgow and do some war work." So things changed within 10 months. But it was a powerful experience. But I got through it all right.
And after the war, what happened? Did you ever want to go back to Germany?
Did we ever want to go back to Germany? Not really. We joined a youth group here, a very left-wing youth group, a refugee society, the little house in Suki, the house on the hill. We were fighting for a second front. We wanted the Hitler defeated, but we ourselves never had any desire to go back to Germany, to rebuild Germany. We did not. Yeah. On the other hand, people ask me, "Did you go back?" Well, we went back to Germany quite early in the 1950s to say thank you to these people. With my mother came here, and to these people who saved my mother's life. if they would have been discovered hiding a Jew, their own life would have been at risk. So we visited these people. We also took our daughters to visit these people. They're no longer alive. But that was, we had to do that, yeah.
Did they know your mother before they hid her?
Oh yes, they were neighbors. They were neighbors, they lived in the house behind us. So that was it was really fantastic.
And I understand after your long career in catering, you've done many other things. Would you like to tell us a little about some of the...
We settled here in Glasgow. I was chef in various restaurants, hotels, chef in the Grand Hotel, where we started kosher functions. Eventually we started our own business. We became Jewish caterers, as you all know, and things went on well. After we retired, you try and give something back to the community. We worked for many years, for 20 odd years, for the Prince and Princess of Wales Hospice. We took people in and stayed with them and brought them back home. We did that for many, many years. And then, of course, we were a skiing family, and being a skier, a ski bobber, I was with the British Ski Bob Association, and then I joined BLESMA, British Limitless Ex-Servicemen's Association, and for 30 years, for 28 years, I was a ski bob instructor. So we had a fantastic time with these fantastic, inspirational British wounded soldiers. Fantastic. Really, both of us, Ingrid and I, we did that for 28 years. Now I still skied at the age of 91. So, and I must say, I'm very proud. For that, I got an MBE from Her Majesty the Queen at Holyrood House Palace in Edinburgh.
And I didn't ask you about meeting your wife. When did you meet Ingrid?
I met Ingrid in that refugee club in Suki Hall Street. It was very egalitarian. It was marvelous. We were very politically involved. We wrote pamphlets. We marched on May Day. We performed all over Scotland in aid of Mrs. Churchill's Aid to Russia Fund. And this I met Ingrid, and it was marvelous. We got together fairly quickly, yes. What helped me, we got married. Many of these young people there had partners who were married. We got married at 20. People said, why so early? Well, I would say what helped me, Ingrid's parents were here in Glasgow, and that gave me a sort of family to latch onto, which that certainly made a big difference. So we met in that youth club, and fantastic, and we've been together since then, yes, still marvelous.